In this tutorial, we'll take a look at smart objects. Smart objects were introduced a version or two ago in Photoshop, and they're just really cool. So I have a file set up that has multiple layers on it. I have a purple square, a yellow circle, and a layer of type, and I want these to remain together and look like this logo that I've created and be able to transform and affect all of these at once, but still have it editable so that I can go in and change any quality of this smart object. So once you have some layers set up, choose each of your layers by click on once on the top one, hold down Shift, click on the bottom one, and then right click and you can choose Convert to Smart Object. It will take all the layers you've selected and put them together in a single object. And you know it's a smart object because it's got this little page icon on it. And once those are all together as a smart object, it acts a lot like it's just a single layer. So I could double click on this and add an effect like a drop shadow. Or I could transform it by hitting Command T and using any of my transform options to affect how that looks. I can right click on it and apply a warp. Once I'm done transforming, I can hit enter. So let's say I want to change the color of this logo. I can't do that out here. I can't get my fill and click on it. It'll actually give me a little no you can't symbol. So to change this, I have to actually go and edit the smart object. To edit a smart object, you have to double click once on the thumbnail and it will open those layers like they're still flat and they're all separate. And when I say flat, I don't mean flattened. I just mean that it's not transformed or perspectived or warped. And you have all of these layers just like you would in any regular document, and you can change them from here. So let's say I wanted to throw a stroke around this type and maybe change the color a little bit of this back layer to something just a tiny bit darker. So I've made a couple of little changes. This file isn't the same as a normal canvas. In fact, if you look up at the tab, it says the name of the smart object and then .psb. When it says .psb, when you save this, it's not going to ask you where to save it because it's actually saving it back into your regular Photoshop document as a nested file. So hit Command S to save, and then we just close this window. You can click the little X in the tab or hit Command W to close it. And those changes were made, and I didn't have to do any sort of retransforming, and it matches up to all of that previous transform. I can come back in here and edit this as much as I want. If I wanted to transform it again, so Command T, and I wanted to change the warp, so right place click and select warp, it even remembers where I left those transformed corners, so I can just change it from the way it was right there. And then hit enter again. The other really cool thing about smart objects is if you make copies of a smart object and then edit one of them, it will change all of the other ones because it's really just making a duplicate of the exact same thing. So I'm going to hold down to Command and Option to be able to make a duplicate and click and drag. And just because this is so big, I'm also going to transform it and make it smaller. And push enter to finalize that. And I'm just going to make a couple more to show you what I mean. So here over in our layers we can see all of our different smart objects, and I'm going to change one of these by double clicking on the thumbnail, and I'm going to take away the word hi and actually add a block of text. So instead of just one word, I have a couple of words. Hit Command S to save it, Command W to close the window, and it has changed and updated that in every instance. Now, where could you use this? If you had, for example, a template where you were setting up maybe a resume, and you use the same logo on there twice, once large and once small, anytime you edited the large logo, it would automatically take care of the small logo, so you wouldn't accidentally forget that you had a copy of it there somewhere on the page and not update it. So it takes care of a lot of that stuff for you. And there, it's updated. Smart Objects is a really powerful tool in Photoshop. When you use it correctly, it can do a lot for you. Just be aware that the more smart objects that you put into a file, the bigger the file is going to be, because essentially it's a file in a file. You can even do a file in another file and have these kind of nested inside each other if you need to. I would recommend keeping it to not more than a couple deep, because your file size is just going to explode if you get going crazy with lots and lots of smart objects. That's pretty much it for the basic smart objects. Be sure and catch the next tutorial to see how Illustrator works with smart objects.